I'm surprised we haven't seen any Havencraft. I really like Havencraft. I think it's got really good
Havencraft
on-curve.
and Dragon. Yeah,
and
like
Dragon,
they have
yeah.
great bronzes. Dragon actually has Basilisk Rider, who, if you didn't know, is almost as strong as Bahamut used to be. If you go first and play Basilisk Rider on curve, then you pretty much have won the game. So I'm actually surprised we haven't seen Dragon picks.
Yeah.
I'd like to win. Oh, there it is. Wow. But
Did I curse it? I don't know.
Maybe. It's alongside Bloodcraft and Shadowcraft. That's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I don't know. FENHYR's been I think he's going to go with Bloodcraft this time. I really like Bloodcraft in Take 2. I think it's probably my favorite. I think it is also the best. I think it just has...
Actually, speaking of Havencraft, I don't think we've even seen the person we spectated have a choice of Havencraft. Actually, that might have been why.
I think
one time.
once.
Did we see it one time?
Yeah,
okay.
one time.
Yeah. I can't remember if that was competing with the choice of Portalcraft or Forest, but it was not picked.
All right, FENHYR going with Shadowcraft. All right, Envy, walk us through these picks. Tell us what's good. Tell us what's bad.
Well, Death Sledger there you can't pick ever. You just can't pick Death Sledger. It's if Nephthys used to be in that, she was a Rise card, so she's gone now. But Death Sledger is basically the same thing as Nephthys. The synergy is just not there to justify the pick. This is actually a super hard one. Actually, this is really tough.
Got removal.
Zombie Party's good.
Yeah, some party's really good.
Ooh.
It definitely can be. We see Catacombs here, which is a card that I mentioned earlier in the very beginning of the broadcast. Throwback, eh? It's one of those cards that if you get one or two of those and you go first, you can kind of just win off of that, just having that card in your deck, basically.
I've seen those games before. Yeah.
Catacomb gets hurt very far out of control.
We all have. Yeah, we all have.
Very quickly.
So here's a card that I've seen a lot of people favor in Take 2 in Skeleton Ogre. How do you feel about that card? It is good stats for its cost, and it does get better over time. How do you feel about it?
Skeleton Ogre it's mostly a 2-play 0.14. You don't actually care about its necromancy effect for the most part. It's basically just to have a 2-drop that you can play into Skull Ring, into Catacombs, because that actually does happen in Take 2. And you can revive it with Skull Ring, and then, those shadows will be gone. You don't want to actually, quote-unquote, waste them on the skeleton. So it's actually not even a bad card, really. It gets a lot of trades in.
I really like Hellblindy.
Yeah.
We've seen Hellblindy even in Constructed.
Oh, yeah.
Goblin Princess plus Hellblindy versus not a silver and a gold.
Hellbindy is a card that a lot of people, I don't think they liked when she first came out. But in Take 2, currently at the moment, if you can enhance her for 7, her effect is insanely good, albeit random.
I think Gloomy Necromancer kind of has that Mystic Ring effect, except it is attached to a body, which is really nice. You can get a really high cost card out of your hand, possibly to use with Reanimate. In what Shadowcraft can bring to the table, but unlikely.
Ooh.
True. It's a tough one too. I think you have to go left there. It's hard to see, actually. You could look at the middle to see what they picked, but I have to memorize the numbers.
Zombie Party again, and this time alongside a Belinus, and I feel like Belinus is one of the best 2-drops that Shadowcraft has.
Man, just the options for
just
Goblin.
in the game, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. The options for so many Goblin Princesses, Explosions, just high-value cards. I really like the deck that FENHYR's got so far.
It's looking pretty good. That left is pretty strong. I actually did not catch if he picked the last Skull Ring. It would mean that he has a Gloaming Tombs in his deck. But Skull Ring is, again, I think we're all very accustomed to how powerful Skull Ring can be with it being used in both unlimited and constructed.
Terrible card. And another Prince Catacomb? Okay.
This is looking really good for FENHYR.
Man.
Is this a third explosion?
I think it would be a third explosion, which actually might hurt him at this point. Right? If you have too many explosions in your deck, you start with an opening hand with one too many, and it just feels really, really terrible.
So many zombie parties.
I do also want to point out, the zombie parties are great. I also want to point out real quick, Exo, what do you think of this? DARX has picked Portalcraft. We've seen another Portalcraft. Another one.
Yeah. It's the literal best day of Shadowverse. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, it is that conversation of, I think Portalcraft is very, very good, but I also think that Bloodcraft and Shadowcraft offer you some very powerful options aside it. And I am not yet convinced. I haven't seen it enough to really make a confident decision, but I'm not yet convinced that Portalcraft has enough consistency to justify their pick over those other two cards.
All I can say is I've been having some good success with it, but then again, I'm not there. playing against the better Take-Two players, you know what I mean, that are playing for all the
Right.
points and things like that. But Portalcraft seems pretty good.
All right, well, we're going to be jumping into the game. And as a note to the viewers out there, in order to make sure we speed up the matches, as well as make sure that there is as little opportunity for the opponents to, rather the guests, to see the host's deck lists and whatnot, we're going to try to curtail this section as much as we can.
That's right. So no more deck lists, unfortunately, so that we can maintain the integrity so that, you know, people can't cheat and all that kind of stuff. But that's okay. Let's get into the game.
So, apologies for that, but we are now in a situation where the loser semis is about to kick out one more player. Just 4 remaining in the North American tournament now, and that is oh
wow. All right. Well, those are some good Shadowcraft cards.
This treasure
again,
map though.
No. Get it? Why? Why do you give away the 1-drop? Don't do it.
You wanted Deus Ex.
I'm so sad. Take treasure map. Don't play it. Okay, so let me tell you one of the best Portalcraft games I've had in Take-Two. First turn treasure map into Grave Desecration, the end. Won the game. Okay? All right. You trade so effectively with Portalcraft with all the artifacts that you put in your deck that Grave Desecration just takes over the game. But you know what? DARX isn't feeling it.
Ooh. I mean, the early game is set. The late game has an option here for FENHYR. Now all he needs to figure out is how to bridge that gap.
Yeah, what is this deck that FENHYR's got in front of us? This is constructed Shadowcraft, and it's scaring me, okay?
Yeah,
this is scary.
Skull Ring here.
Ooh, Rapunzel's a great option, too. Going into the evolution turn specifically. This kind of gives a little bit of a tell for DARX to know that FENHYR is possibly thinking about evolving next turn to get some use out of the Rapunzel. But again, that could be another mind game.
Oh, Cursed Stone is actually a very interesting card. Could you talk about what makes Cursed Stone so different than a lot of the other cards in the game?
Well, first of all, in constructed play, you're not going to really utilize it too much just because it doesn't give you a lot of options. You have to evolve it if you want to get like really good use out of it. But again, like we've been talking about, specifically with Take-Two, it's overstated for its cost, essentially, and it has ward. So you don't ever really care if it does attack or not. It's just a body that you're using to suck up advantage, you know, card advantage.
Thankfully for FENHYR, as we saw, he has more than enough zombie parties in his deck and is able to get past the Cursed Stone and the Rapunzel swings.
And this is going to be a tough board. Like, Rapunzel almost makes you want to always destroy the other follower, but it's got such a big stat line that if it stays around for too long, you're just like, okay, well, this is still in play. This is still smacking me every turn. It is a way to force Evolution Orbs out of your opponent really early, though, which I really like.
Yep. Spinaria is set up here. And this is interesting. Spinaria, the artifact that Spinaria gets is a 1/1. Has a last word effect. If it is destroyed on your turn, it draws an artifact from your deck. If it is destroyed on your opponent's turn, it draws a card. Also, Spinaria, as long as Spinaria is in play, every time an artifact comes into play, give it the effect to do a PDK-esque, a Prime Dragon Keeper-esque ability where it pings a random enemy follower for 1, and that persists on the artifact.
Yep.
Even when Spinaria is gone. So it can actually make your artifacts very, very deadly if you fill your board with a bunch of artifacts that can just clear the opponent's side, and then all of a sudden you're swinging face with a bunch of 3-power artifacts.
That's absolutely right. And I think, like, this is kind of an awkward turn. It's still going to be really good for FENHYR, but having to use this evolve just so that he can attack with the Rapunzel and still not have 4 shadows, you know, for Soul Squasher, like, this is a really awkward turn. It's a really awkward turn. He still has board advantage, but not able to use all of the cards in his hand as he would have wanted.
My question is, how the ideal scenario for me, in my imagination, is that FENHYR is going to time his shadows such that as he hits play point 10, he's going to have enough to go with his Aisha. Oh my god, and that is a cost-effective use of the evolution orbs here.
And I would like to believe that, but I think this Soul Squasher is going to have to do some work here, because I think DARX is turning that corner. And you know what? We're starting to use that phrase a decent amount in this Take-Two, but it's what it really feels like. Who decides to be aggressive first? And then who decides to, okay, I'm going to take the card advantage roll. I'm going to go to the late game. I know I have it. And then they turn the corner, and then they just start eking out advantage turn after turn until they cement a win with it.
I think it's important to look at the game in terms of, what is the maximum use of your resources, right? You can't be spending resources and having yourself end up in a situation where you're just giving your opponent free time to kind of trade things out. Your health is a very real resource in Take Two, unlike in Unlimited or Rotation, where a lot of the times the deck is so powerful that can blow through the majority of your health pool in one go. Right?
Yeah, and we can keep using that one turn as an example where it was a turn pass into a pitfall. You can utilize that 4, 3, however much defense you want to utilize over the course of several turns just so you can maximize what your card effects do. Like, say you have an explosion, they have 2 followers, let them hit you for a turn or 2, you know what I mean? Let them fill up their board, then use the explosion or something like that, if you have the means to do it. Just things to consider that are different in Take Two than in Constructed. Ooh.
What?
That happens more than you think, as a matter of fact. That happens way more than you think, all right? The Shining Bellringer Angel, you know what? It just has... She doesn't like to die, okay? She likes to stay in play. She likes to protect you. She's like, Hellbindy, I don't care about you.
Does have the option to draw 2 extra cards if DARX is looking for a particular resource.
Yep. And honestly, I think it was super fortunate for FENHYR to actually draw that Hellbindy. So he played in early game in such a way that dictated that all the evolution orbs were going to be used up. And then top decked one of the best cards you can get after the evolution orbs are used up. And DARX not having any straightforward removal spells, unfortunately, I think is just going to start falling behind. There are so many good cards now in the hand of FENHYR that it's going to be tough to actually overcome.
What is your ideal scenario to be playing Bad Catha in this board state?
Honestly, at this point, probably just as card advantage like we saw Fantasy try to do at the end of the game. I mean, you already have your end game option. You already have a Goblin Princess for the mid game. Like, you can obviously use it to push, have a good push turn if you'd like. But at this point, you have everything you already need. Save it unless you need it type of effect, I would think, in my mind.
Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
These Hellbindy hits might actually just be too much by themselves, okay?
I mean... If you get into a scenario where you just build up resources, here comes the Magna Legacy, and it's going to be 2 across the board. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. If that is not a swing, I don't know what is. It's a race to find shadows now. And he's got 11 damage. Is there any way to even take care of what's on the other side?
You don't have to. This is a turn where you can put up a ward, and if DARX cannot find a way to push past this ward without utilizing one of his followers...
I mean, he can just test of strength.
He's got test of strength. Envy. Envy! Test of strength. Terrible, huh? Huh?
I mean,
we might see him win a game.
He might still lose.
Of course,
right?
of course, of course. Okay, let's not get ahead of myself. Okay. All right.
Does set up the ward.
Yep, got to do it. Got to get to the 10th shadow to make Aisha playable here. Actually, no, you don't. The storm's going to happen on the enhance anyway, so you just have to survive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the big thing is if Test of Strength comes down, Aisha can't even double swing trade into either of these followers. There's just so much value. This is the second time we've seen the Colossal Construct just really take things over.
I mean, that plus Magna Legacy, you know what I mean? Like, those cards just generate so much value, and it looks like Test of Strength is not going to be... No! No!
Oh.
Test of Strength. Why?
Oh, man.
Why? FENHYR already knows, too. He sees there's no play points left for DARX, raising the hands in victory.
I wanted him to play the treasure map and the Test of Strength.
I'm so sad. DARX could have done all of the things, did none of the things.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, honestly, it's really hard to, predict an Aisha, one of the best endgame cards for Shadowcraft. But, I mean, you got to think Zeus has been a role player in most of these games as well, and it could protect you against Zeus.
Now, that is a big difference in Take Two, right? There is some space to play certain risks, right? Where you're like, okay, in a traditional unlimited or rotation deck, there's no way that you don't have your endgame option, right? It is very, very likely that you have an Aisha.
And sometimes you can take that chance in Take Two because they probably don't in most scenarios. However, today that has not been the case for the endgame scenarios.
That is not the case. I want to know if there was even a winning turn after playing that.